A recent article published on the Advisor Perspectives website gives a pretty controversial comparison on the difficulty between the CFP and CFA programs. Spoiler alert, I also believe that the author of this article is way off base in her comparison between the difficulty of those two exams. In this video, we're going to cover why she claims that the CFP program is equally as difficult or more difficult than the CFA program. Then after that, we're going to look into why she likely feels the way that she does, but then explain why she's just off base in her comparison of the difficulty. This video is kindly sponsored by Analyst Prep. Analyst Prep is the #1 rated CFA and FRM test prep provider from 2 different reputable review websites. Analyst Prep's CFA review program offers over 4,000 practice questions, a beautifully put together website with a lot of tools to help you prepare for the exam. Signing up with Analyst Prep also gets you 5 mock exams, which you're not going to see from any other CFA test prep provider out there. They are one of the lowest priced third-party test prep options, and when you use code ST20 or click the link in the description down below, you'll get an additional 20% off Analyst Prep's already low prices. The author of this article, who completed the CFA program about 15 years ago and the CFP program more recently, says that she chose to pursue the CFP program later in life because she wanted to increase her competence and further her learning on information that's relevant to her field and the work she does. And honestly, that's a great reason to pursue either the CFA or CFP programs. I've talked a lot in videos in the past on how I think one of the biggest benefits to becoming a CFA charter holder is the potential career prospects that can get for you. So I have a lot of respect for the author here because she pursued the CFP program later on in her 40s and while she was already established in her career, which means she probably wasn't trying to gain a leg up over her peers within the industry, but rather really just trying to learn as much as she could. But that doesn't mean that she's right in saying that the CFP exam was more difficult than the CFA exams. Further on in the article, she says that when she was telling colleagues that she was going to start pursuing the CFP exam, a lot of them said, "Oh, well, you've passed the CFA exams, that means the CFP exam is going to be easy for you." And then she says, "And foolishly, I believed them." No, not foolishly. You should just believe them. They're exactly right. The CFP exam is way easier than the CFA exam. She finishes out that paragraph by saying, "So I just had the idea in my head that I could complete the CFP program in 6 months and move on with my life." I would tell you, if you're someone who already has the CFA charter and decides to pursue the CFP exam like I did and like the author did, it should take you far less than 6 months to get the CFP letters. For me, it was about 6 weeks, but really I only spent about 4 of those weeks studying. I'm not saying that to brag or try to compare myself to this author in any way. I'm just saying that the CFA exams are that much more difficult, such that once you start preparing for the CFP exam, it's like a breeze. However, when she started to really dig into the CFP material, taxes and estate planning and personal accounting were all very non-intuitive. And I totally agree with that sentiment. The material that the CFP exam covers on those areas is very confusing and all things that I had never even heard of in my entire life, already having had worked as a financial advisor for 4 years at that point. It tests you on some really obscure and probably unnecessary estate planning and insurance laws. But the fact of the matter is, the volume of the obscure information that you're tested on with the CFP program is probably 1/10 of the volume of obscure information you're tested on with the CFA program. So the difficulties just don't compare. Now, if you're a financial advisor who has just decided to pursue the CFP program, then that definitely could take you 2 years. For one, you haven't just been immersed with a lot of financial topics that the CFA exam covers, some of which overlap to the CFP content, but also you have to take like 8 or 9 college classes that the CFP program says counts towards its educational requirements if you don't already have the CFA or a CPA or a PhD designation. So just knocking out the education requirements to sit for the CFP exam can take you a lot of time, but again, this author and also myself came to the CFP program after already having had completed the CFA. The author then admits that she did spend more time studying for the CFA exams and definitely more time sitting in on CFA exams since you have to take 3 rather than just 1 for the CFP. But then she says both programs have very challenging information, and when she compares the two, neither one seemed easier or harder or better or worse. They were both just difficult. Let me say it again. That perspective is almost objectively just not true. Coming from someone who completed both of those programs in really close proximity to one another throughout my life, I can tell you that the CFP exam is probably only 10 or 15% as difficult as the CFA exams were. Now, later on in the article, the author starts to offer some information that seems to really explain why she might have this opinion that the CFP program is equally as difficult. She provides some information about where she was at in her life when she took the CFP exam compared to where she was at in her life 15 years earlier when she was studying for the CFA exams. And I mentioned it earlier on in this video, but she was 47 years old when she sat for the CFP exam relative to being in her mid-30s when she was studying for and taking the CFA exams. And that age can explain a lot of the difficulties someone would have in studying for and taking a test. That's not a statement about age and people getting older and then becoming less smart or less sharp on information in their relevant field. The point is, it makes a big difference when you are pursuing an academic program and studying mounds and mounds of information and sitting down and having to recall that information and take a test if you haven't been taking similar academic challenges for the past decade. It's just far easier to study and take exams when you're not too far removed from that point in your life, being college or a master's program. Being in your late 40s and having to get back into test mode can be a really difficult transition to make. I've seen a lot of people struggle to make that same one throughout their careers. I think it's impressive that this author was able to get back into academics and pass the CFP exam when she was 47 years old. Again though, the relative difficulty of taking an exam at that point in your life likely explains a lot of the difference in why she felt like the CFP programs were equally as difficult as the CFA exams. The author also had a more complex family situation. You know, what she had going on at home was much different when she was 47 than when she was 32. Having kids and stepkids running around the house can also make it more difficult to have a consistent study schedule when you're pursuing some academic challenge. I can partly speak from experience on that one as well. Finally, the author likely had more responsibilities in her career than she may have when she was in her early 30s. A lot of people end up working less hours in their 40s and 50s than they were in their 20s and 30s. I don't know exactly if that's going to correlate in this scenario, but it could be fair to assume she had less to worry about or less responsibility associated with her career, and that can make a difference in the amount of mental bandwidth that you're able to allocate towards studying for an exam. When we look at her age, when we look at her family situation, when we talk about her career, those are the reasons why this person likely felt like the CFP exam was just as difficult as the CFA exams. For the last time, I can just tell you that the content tested, even on the level 1 CFA exam, which is usually considered the easiest of the three, is vastly more complex and larger in volume than the information tested throughout the entire CFP program. If you're watching this video and contemplating pursuing either one of those or maybe both of those programs, it's important to consider two main things. Number one is what the information taught throughout that program and tested on in those exams is, and if you need that type of information in the job that you have or the job that you're trying to get. It's pretty easy to go to cfainstitute.com or collegeforfinancialplanning.com and look at the coursework that makes up each of those programs and then just think about if that information is relevant to what you're doing or what you want to do. The second thing to consider is, are employers or hiring managers in a field that you want to break into looking for either of those two designations? To make a long story short, the CFP letters are far more beneficial if you are a retail or client-facing financial advisor or financial planner, and the CFA letters are going to be far more beneficial if you're in a role focused on making investment decisions. If you have any questions for me about the differences between those two programs, please don't hesitate to drop a comment down below or send me an email. Back to the sponsor of this video, if you're interested in Analyst Prep CFA material, don't forget to use my link in the description down below for 20% off their already low prices, and you'll get access to a really great third-party provider. If you're still here, thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. The YouTube algorithm loves the long watch times in terms of total minutes watched or just a percentage of this video. Please like this and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And as always, thanks for watching.